We're doing something a little different today. We're not just looking at an article or some report. Nope. We are opening up a real government document. We're going to treat it like a case file and see if we can solve the surprising mystery hidden inside all that official language. Okay, so it all starts with this number, 14,294,956 rupiah. Now just imagine for a second. You open your mail, you find this very official-looking letter from the tax office, and inside is that number. That's a bill for nearly 1,000 US dollars. For most of us, that's not just intimidating, it's downright terrifying. So let's just pause here for a moment. Really, what would you do? Would you kind of panic? Would you immediately start tearing through old files, getting ready for a long, drawn-out bureaucratic battle? I mean, it's a situation that would stress just about anyone out. Well, that's pretty much exactly what happened to a taxpayer named Desi. But her story has a twist. We're going to investigate how this massive bill didn't lead to a huge fight, but instead, well, it just disappeared. All right, let's kick off our investigation with the bill itself, the piece of paper that started all this anxiety in the first place. So here it is, the official name of the document that started it all, pulled right from our case file. It's a Surat Tagihan Pajak, or STP. It was issued on June 3rd, 2025, but it's about a tax period from all the way back in July of 2020. I mean, all this jargon just makes it sound even more official and scary, doesn't it? So, what in the world is an STP? Well, in simple terms, it's a formal demand for payment. The tax office thinks you owe them money, and this is the letter they send to get it. In Desi's case, it was a demand for over 14 million rupiah. But this is where the story takes a really unexpected turn. The hero of the story isn't the taxpayer fighting back against the system, it's actually the tax office itself. Buried deep in this document, we find this absolutely crucial phrase. The bill was canceled based on a specific article of the law. But look at the two words at the end, Sakara Jabatan. That's the key. So what does Sakara Jabatan, or ex officio in legal terms, actually mean? It means the tax office took this action all by itself. Desi didn't have to file a complaint, she didn't have to make a single phone call, didn't have to hire a lawyer. The system itself found its own mistake and started the process to fix it. Let's look at the timeline, just to see how this all played out. So the original tax issue was from way back in July 2020, right? The incorrect bill wasn't even sent until almost 5 years later. But once the system caught the mistake, things moved surprisingly fast. An internal investigation confirmed the error on January 8th, and just 6 days later, boom, the final decision to cancel it was made. Okay, so how can a government office just decide to cancel a bill it just sent out? Well, it turns out they have a formal process for exactly this kind of situation. The process itself is pretty fascinating, actually. It all starts with a little flag in the system. That flag then triggers an internal investigation, not of the taxpayer, but of the bill itself. Then a formal report is written up, and based on that evidence, the head of the office has the authority to issue an official decision to just make the whole problem go away. It's like a built-in self-correction button. And that brings us to the climax of our case file, the final decision, the verdict. This is probably the most powerful word in the entire document, memutuskan, which means to decide. And it's followed by the verdict, membatalkan surat tagihan pajak, to cancel the tax collection letter. I mean, it's so clear, so direct, and absolutely final. And the best part is laid out right here in this table. You see the column Semula, or original amount. There's that 14.2 million rupiah debt. But then you look over at the menjadi, or final amount column, and you see what has to be the most beautiful number in the entire world when you're talking about a tax bill. 0. The debt was completely, totally wiped out. But, in this day and age, how do you prove a decision like this is actually legit? How is it validated? It's not just about a stamp and a signature anymore. The document says it was ditandatangani secara electronic, which means it was signed electronically. So there's no handwritten signature from the head of the office. Instead, its authenticity is guaranteed by a secured digital certificate issued by a national agency. And check this out. This QR code right here in the document is basically the 21st century version of a notary seal. Anyone can scan it with their phone, and it'll take them to a government website to prove the document is legit and hasn't been tampered with. That's transparency and security built right in. All right, case closed. We've solved the mystery of the disappearing tax bill. But what's the big takeaway from digging through this little file? What does it all mean for you? Well, first, it shows that even these massive, complex government systems have ways to fix their own mistakes. Second, knowing a term like ex officio is super empowering, right? It means the system can actually fix itself. Third, this is hard proof that even government bureaucracy is modernizing. And finally, and I think this is the biggest point, once you understand how to read a document like this, it stops being this intimidating threat and just becomes a process you can actually understand. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. We usually see these official documents as these cold, unfeeling, rigid things. But after seeing a case where the system found its own mistake and fixed it without anyone even asking, does that change how you might look at the next official-looking envelope that shows up in your mail?